My ex-wife still keeps trying to get back together with me, and our daughters want that to happen too. Doesn't really sound like a big problem, right? Yeah, well, while I wish I could just plain tell her to piss off and never bother me again, there is the matter of us having 2 daughters and sharing custody, so I can't excise her from my life on a permanent basis. Not without removing our daughters too. We married fairly early in our lives, back when we were 20, and had been dating for 3 years before that. Our daughters were born in the first year of the marriage, and there were some complications, which meant my ex-wife would have difficulty conceiving again. Didn't matter to me at the time, because I was just glad she made it healthy and fine through the whole ordeal, and that we already had 2 beautiful girls to love and raise up. The marriage lasted for 9 years, ended when I divorced her for cheating. I have absolutely no tolerance for it, and I don't believe in forcing myself to suffer needlessly for shit that wasn't my fault to begin with. While this might sound incredulous to some folks, any love I had for my ex-wife was pretty much killed when I found out about her cheating and the details behind it. So yeah, this isn't a thread about me moving on from her. I've done that 7 years ago. Hell, I don't even hate her. I just don't give a damn about what goes on in her life unless it concerns our daughters. The problem is that it's only me that moved on from the whole thing. The ex-wife, her family, and even our daughters have kept trying to get us back together, even though I have made it plain for everyone that I have no interest of ever doing that. Me not dating at first for a few years after the divorce might have been giving them false hope, but I sure as duck wasn't going to jump into another relationship so soon after. Not with our daughters to look after. They were my number 1 priority. Besides my own business, which stemmed from the ex's cheating. Those issues, by the by, got resolved with the help of friends, family, and some counseling. So yeah, that's over and done with. I have no issue in communicating with our girls, none whatsoever. Anything else? They can understand it just fine. There's never been any fighting, no yelling, no nonsensical teenage rebellion, thus far. No tantrums thrown, and so on. Pretty great, right? Except this whole thing. They know about her cheating on me, and it was their mother, in fact, who told them about it, some 3 years ago or so. I imagine she's been feeding them some kind of bullcrap since then, and I've asked her countless times to stop with it, that it wasn't helping anyone, that it only prevented them from moving on. But the ex-wife didn't stop. She apparently just got subtler about it. In all the years since we've divorced, she hasn't dated or slept with anyone else. While I suppose she thinks that's admirable, I don't. To be honest, I find it kind of insulting. When we were married, she ducked someone else, but now she's just fine going without S for 7 years. Whatever, not that it matters. While I could ignore the occasional mentions of their mother, of how well she looks, of them showing me photos they took with her, obviously all dolled up for my sake, it's gotten worse lately. Why? Because I have a girlfriend. Clemence is not the first time since the divorce, but she is the most serious relationship I had since my marriage ended. She also happens to be 8 years my junior. Before getting together as a couple, we knew each other for 4 years through a shared hobby. So basically, it was a gradual transition from being friends to being involved with each other. I can honestly say I love this woman. It was a surprise to me when I realized that, because while I didn't really want to admit it to myself, I was afraid for a time that what my ex-wife did to me damaged me on some fundamental level and rendered me incapable of ever truly loving someone else, like I once did her. Initially, my daughters had very little to say about our relationship, much like they didn't comment anything on the previous 2 I had post-divorce. But then they started coming home, ahead of the schedule we set up in advance, and they'd find me and Clemence together. Nothing compromising, not S or anything of the sort. Then came the grumbling. Then came the, "Why is she here?" questions. Then came, "It's not fair to Mom what you're doing." As if I was actually doing this solely to spite or hurt their mother. So I sat them down and talked. And I talked and I talked. But they're just not getting it. They simply won't give up on this preposterous fantasy of theirs where I get back with their mother. Clemence, thank God, has been understanding and isn't upset by their behavior. She's basically saying to give them time, but I kind of doubt that will work. It hasn't so far, so I have no idea why more time would change anything. Anyway, since I'm really all out of ideas, I figured I might as well ask you folks here if any one of you might have an idea how to handle this. Is there even a way, an approach of any sort that could work on my daughters realizing I will not, under any circumstances, get back with their mother? A lot of things has happened. Among those things, my daughters actually stumbled across my post. I had no idea they even browsed Reddit, let alone this place. When I came home one day from work, I found them crying. They pretty much jumped me, hugged me, wouldn't let me go, and begged me to forgive them. Sadly, they had read one of my replies and found out the dreadful extent of my ex-wife's affair and how much it had devastated me. It took us a while, but we got through it as a family. There was nothing for me to forgive. They're still young and they love their mother, who took that love and used it to manipulate them. That's on her, not them. There was some much-needed counseling, but after several months, the woman who was helping us heal and move on has said that nothing more needed to be done, and they should only check in with her once in a while, rather than continue with weekly sessions. We're closer than we ever were before, but their relationship with their mother has suffered for it, which I think is completely understandable, but I still caution them about lingering too much on what she did, since I had gotten over what she did all those years ago. That was something also resolved in counseling, both their own and our shared ones, so it's all behind us now. I had a brief confrontation with my ex-wife about it and made it clear that she was not to talk about this getting back together nonsense anymore with our daughters. I can't tell if it really got through to her, but my daughters have not been pestered about me since then. Or they simply ignore their mother and didn't bring it up at home. Either way, so long as my daughters are doing fine, I could care less about what my ex-wife is doing. Since the situation had improved, things had also become much better between my daughters and my girlfriend, so much that they actually started talking with her, rather than just exchange terse greetings and goodbyes, even occasionally asking for tips on something, girly stuff of course, and I can't tell you how much it warmed my heart to see it happening for the first time. I'll admit that also helped me push my thoughts in the direction of proposing to my girlfriend, who had been incredibly supporting and understanding through all of this. We had known each other for a long time now, spent so much time as a couple, and after all this mess, I really didn't think there was anything more I could do to express my love for her. However, I was beaten to the punch. 2 months ago, Clements, together with my daughters, surprised me one day and proposed to me. I have to say that I felt very odd, but also very happy. Not just the proposal, but that my daughters had actually worked with my girlfriend on surprising me that day with dinner and a night out. To put it simply, I was blown away. It was a small and private ceremony, with only our closest friends and family attending. Currently, we're also expecting, and my daughters are looking forward to having a baby brother or sister to spoil. My wife of 4 years is the younger of 2 sisters. The elder, 33, being married to a British surgeon, 46, male, and living with him in England with their son, 6, and daughter, 2. My wife was always unfairly compared unfavorably to her elder sister by my mother-in-law. According to my wife, her mother always said elder sister was prettier, smarter, more talented, more likable, more popular, just better in every way. My wife therefore turned into something of a desperate overachiever growing up, trying to win her mother's approval. Her father left her mother when she was in her early teens and has begun a new family in France. Mother-in-law apparently received alimony for several years along with grants from the state. Also, when elder sister got married nearly 10 years ago, elder sister's husband would help support mother-in-law with monthly checks. My wife put herself through college and used to teach the first grade before our daughter, 3, was born. She lived in her own apartment in Calgary before moving in with me. I am an orthodontist. For whatever reason, brother-in-law stopped sending mother checks every month, and mother-in-law needed a place to live because I guess she decided that working for a living was beneath her, and her flat wouldn't pay for itself. From what I gather, mother-in-law tried to set about moving to Britain to be with her golden child, but they vetoed that idea fast. Mother-in-law approached my wife about moving into our 3-bedroom house under the guise of helping us take care of our daughter. My wife is already a stay-at-home mother, and from what she tells me, she has it all under control just fine. But as a favor to her mother, and in an attempt to get closer to her, she asked me if I would give my okay. The 2nd bedroom is our daughter's, of course, and the 3rd was my consulting room and home office, as we live in a rather small town and I sometimes meet patients in my personal residence. But because I love my wife and want to see her happy and with a good relationship with her mother, I agreed. Mother-in-law moved from Montreal to our home. Wife and I paid not only for shipping her things, but also for her plane fare. Within a few days, mother-in-law began to criticize everything my wife does. She makes the baby food incorrectly. The baby's bath is all wrong. Don't comb her hair like that, she'll get bald. Don't give her that kind of toy, you'll teach her to be a lesbian. Your sister's children are more attractive than your daughter. You need to put on more lipstick and do your face in the morning. If you get sloppy, your husband will leave you. Your sister's husband is more successful than yours. Your husband isn't a real doctor like your sister's husband. Your sister has a 7-bedroom house. Your place is tiny compared. You'd better watch it with your diet. You'll get fat. My wife is 173 centimeters tall and weighs only 55 kilos. Her mother has screwed with her mind so much, she suffered from anorexia as a teenager, often weighing only 46 kilograms. Mother-in-law also constantly criticizes wife's teeth, which in the opinion of myself and 2 other dentists are in fantastic shape, and says it's such a shame that she has such a horrible mouth. This is both an attack on her and me. My wife seems to just take it and take it. This is my mother-in-law, and if she were anyone else, and especially if she were a man, she'd have a broken nose. However, I bite my tongue out of respect for my wife's request. I tell my wife in private that I'd like to throw her mother out, or at the very least, start correcting her with firmness whenever she steps out of line. But my wife absolutely begs me to not say anything, that this is just how her mother is, that it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't hurt her. Her constant refrain is, "Please, oh please, don't make a scene, I'm begging you." I happen to think it does hurt her, and it's going to hurt our daughter as well. I don't like it when I buy an age-appropriate toy and my mother-in-law tells my wife that the toy will turn our daughter into a lesbian. As if that's at all possible. And as if that's such a horrible thing, even if it were possible. I also can tell my wife's self-esteem has gone down since mother-in-law moved in. It's been 7 months. My wife is often dizzy these days, and my mother-in-law crows with delight as if this justifies her theory that her living with us is necessary. When I take over caring for the baby at home, mother-in-law will insinuate that I'm just a stupid man and have no idea how to raise children. Actually, you wretched old moron, I helped raise my infant sister when I was 14. She'll try to take the kid from me, and when I refuse, my wife will tell me to hand the kid over. To prevent the scene, my wife is always begging me not to start. I acquiesce. If it were just up to me, I'd love to throw this old hag out on her ass right this second. But it isn't up to me, and this house is my wife's just as much as it's mine, and we're a team. But I don't like it if my co-captain gets disrespected in her own home. My wife just takes it and tries to be brave. But it's wearing her down, and her mother just seems to thrive on the drama. Any advice on what to do here? I really hate that this toxic old biddy consistently insinuates that both I and her daughter are losers. But we're the only thing separating her from the street and a can of Fancy Feast for dinner every night. Sister in England has no advice other than to act as if this is solely our problem. Oh, and lest it be forgotten, I know my wife's mother has several assets remaining to her. Heirloom jewelry, stocks, cash, etc., because she robbed her husband blind in their divorce before he bounced. And I know with almost absolute certainty that mother-in-law will rather die 1,000 times than give any of these things to my wife after she passes. I can see plainly that my mother-in-law is poison, but my wife can't or won't see it because she's used to being B. What can I do to help her see the light? I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years now, and I recently moved into his house. It's been nice and all, save for one issue, his cleaning lady. His cleaning lady, Maria, has been cleaning for him since his undergrad days and law school, so she's been working for him at least 13 years now. He absolutely loves her cleaning and says she's the best, so I don't really mess with their agreement. Brian has a big house, and it's a huge help in keeping it tidy. But I have a feeling she doesn't like me at all. Maria and I are both the same ethnicity. I speak English and Spanish. My boyfriend has never told her I speak Spanish. When I met her, I only spoke English. My boyfriend's Spanish sucks, and I didn't think it was an issue. She assumes I only speak English. When she comes over, I'm usually here. It's my day off. I use the day to sleep in or catch up on whatever I need in the house. Usually, she comes with her sister-in-law. I stay out of their way. I often hear snippets of their conversations. The other day, Maria forgot the house key. I had a terrible migraine and was still in bed. I opened the door and I heard her whisper to her sister-in-law, "See, it's late and she's still sleeping. How lazy." My migraines are bad, so if I have them all night, I will sleep in a different room. When I do, I often hear, "They must be fighting. They fight too much." I cook, just never in excess, and never leave dirty pans or dishes out, so I often hear, "She never cooks. How lazy. Poor Mr. Brian." Her daughter came with her the other day, and her daughter asked if I spoke Spanish. No, it seems her parents are the kind that don't keep their kids in touch with our culture. She only speaks English. She thinks she's American. She doesn't work either. She went to a nice school, and look, all she does is sleep. I actually work in a lab, so that was funny to me. If I ask her to do something, she'll do it, but she'll say, "Mr. Brian doesn't have me do that." I have a spoiled dog, seriously. He's a Shih Tzu, so not menacing, and he doesn't make noise. I've had him since I was 18. He is my baby. She'll complain about how dirty he is and how he smells. I wash my dog all the time, and his hair isn't even long. I love wearing dresses, mostly because I'm lazy, and yes, they are short. I'm also very, very short. She likes to mention if I really go out in public that way, and obviously my mom and dad didn't teach me better. Actually, my parents made me wear shorts under my clothes until I was 20. They were pretty strict. My dad is pretty old school. Yes, we have a huge age gap. She asked me shortly after I moved in how old I was. I told her, and she never said anything. She told her sister-in-law after I went upstairs, and they both talked about how obviously they would never let their children do that. My parents were fine with it because for some reason people in my family all marry old men, or there's large age gaps with the couples. Anyways, how exactly do I deal with this? I've told my mom, and she thinks I should let this cleaning lady know that yes, I know everything she said and tell Brian. I honestly don't want to cause issues. He's had her working for him forever, and I don't want to really cause a rift. She's a really good worker. I just think she doesn't like me at all, and I feel awkward when she's here. I hate confrontation, and I'm sure this will end up as one. Edit 1. I'll explain why I haven't said anything. I have terrible anxiety, and I cry when I'm mad. So for me, it's easier to bottle it up. It doesn't help my migraines, though. Brian is actually out of town until Wednesday. My sister is spending the weekend with me. Maria has never met my family. My sister and I communicate in Spanish. Maria and Brian have an alternating schedule. The reason I posted this is because tomorrow she comes by to clean and Brian is not here. Typically when she comes on Saturdays, he's here. They always chit-chat. I wanted to weigh out my options. I haven't really told Brian. I've been asking him hypothetical scenarios. I don't want her fired. She gets along with his family. His mom actually hired her based on a friendly recommendation, and I know she loves his mom.